So what did we find out that you needed to write the equation of a circle? You needed two things. You needed a center and a radius. If they didn't give you the radius, they gave you an extra point, so you could still find the radius and plug it back in. So what do we need to graph a circle? Same things, a center and a radius. And that's really always the only thing we really care about circles is a center and a radius. So when we graph them, we're caring about the center and the radius. So let's take a look at this first problem, A. So the first thing I would want to find out is where is our center point? What's our x and what's our y? Well, remember, the center is determined by what's with your x and what's with your y. Well, in this first one, there are no numbers with the x or y, so remember, we found out that that means that there's a 0 coordinate for your x and a 0 coordinate for your y, which means your center is at 0, 0 for your circle. It's at the origin. But our radius is determined by what's on the other side. Well, let's take a look. What's on the other side is a 36. Remember, the radius is already squared. So if our radius squared is 36, that means my regular radius, by taking the square root, is just going to be a 6. So how do I draw my circle? I've got my center point drawn at 0, 0, but to actually draw in my circle, I'm going to use my radius of 6 by going out 6 in every direction, left, right, up, and down. So I am going to go left, right, up, down, and that's going to give me my basic shape to my circle. And I'm not a great artist, so do your best as long as it doesn't look like a square. It's good enough. And what's lucky is you guys have my math lab. So what you guys will do is there's a circle feature. You'll press the circle option. You'll click the center first at 0, 0, and then you'll do one of the other 4 points. It doesn't matter which. You just need to click on one of the 4 points, and it will fill in the entire circle for you. Just be careful and take your time. You can always hit the clear button and do it again. Let's take a look at B. On B, same idea. We want to start out by finding the center, because that's how we're going to start our circles always. It's going to be a point with an x and a y. Well, the x coordinate is always with the x's, and the y coordinate is always with the y's, but remember, it's the reverse. So if I see a +2 like I do here with the x's, I'm actually going to record a -2 as my x coordinate for my center. And I see a -5 with my y, so I'm actually going to record the reverse, a +5 for my center. So my center is going to be over to the left at -2 on my x's, and up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on my y's, and there's my center. I also need my radius, though, to actually fill in my actual circle. Well, remember, my radius is on the other side of the equation, but it's like the Pythagorean theorem, everything is already squared. So this radius is squared. So to find the actual just regular radius, not squared, I need to take the square root, which will tell me that the radius is actually just 4. So I can go from my center, and from the center that I've already drawn, I need to go 4 in every direction. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I've gone right down, left, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then up. I'm going to go off the picture a little bit, but that's okay. I've got the right idea, and then you can draw your circle best you can. Doesn't have to be perfect, but there it is. And we're done. It gives us a good idea of what the circle looks like. Let's try another one. Let's take a look at C. Again, we're going to start by graphing because we need a center. We're going to find that first by looking to see what's with the x's. Well, I don't see anything with the x, no number. So our x coordinate on our center should be a 0. And I see a -2 with the y, so remember we're going to take the reverse, so it'll be a +2. So our center is going to be at 0, +2, which is up here on the y-axis at +2. Remember, your radius, which is the second thing you care about, is on the other side of the equation. But just like everything else on this equation, it's already squared. So the radius means we got to take the square root of the 9, which will give me 3. So the radius is 3. So from the center, I'm going to go 3 in every direction. I'm going to start by going right 3, down 3, left 3, and up 3. And then I can draw my circle the best that I can, and I'm done. Now, let's take a look at one last one in D. Again, we want to find a center and a radius. Let's start with the center first. Well, the center is going to look at whatever with the x's first, which is the +2. Remember, we record the opposite, which would be a -2. Now notice, what's with the y's, I don't see anything inside the squared with the y. So that means that actually what's with the y is nothing, a 0. That means that this -2 that's not with the x's and it's not with the y's is part of the radius, meaning I should actually move it over to the other side by adding 2 to the other side. So that'll add that +2 to the other side. That means what's on this side now, the 2 is going to be my radius. Remember, it's squared already. So how do I find just the radius? I need to take the square root of what I had, which was a 2. So the radius is not pretty here. It's the square root of 2. So to actually graph this, I'd say, well, my center is at -2, 0, which is to the left 2. And I'd have to figure out what is square root of 2. You can use a scientific calculator at the very least on every part of your test. You may not be able to use a graphing calculator on every part of your test, but you will be able to use a scientific calculator. So anything I'm purposefully doing by hand, make sure that you know how to do it without a graphing calculator, that you can do it by hand as well. So if I type in square root of 2 on my calculator, it's about 1.4, which means that I'm going to go about 1.4 in every direction. So a little bit more than 1. And that's good enough. And I'm done. Now keep in mind, my math lab won't give you probably a weird radius like this and actually have you graph it. They might have you find a weird radius like this, but they can't make you graph it because it's too hard in my math lab. But you should know and understand how to do that.